Hello and welcome to the further maths videos for OCR Pure Core. This is the section of videos on polar coordinates and this is 1.3 converting between forms. Okay, so if we have a look at this diagram, and you remember from last time that when we write polar coordinates we write them in the form r theta, where r is the distance from the pole or the origin and theta is the anti-clockwise angle from the positive x-axis. Now, if we have a look at this triangle, got our x, y, r and theta, we can use this to write x and y in terms of r and theta. So using trig ratios, we know that sine theta would equal y over r, so that leads us to y is r sine theta, and cos theta would be x over r, which leads us to x is r cos theta. We use these so that we can convert from Cartesian coordinates to polar coordinates, or from polar coordinates to Cartesian coordinates. Okay, so here we have 2 points, A and B, and we want to find their Cartesian coordinates. So let's start first of all with point A. We know that x equals r cos theta, so x is going to be 3 cos pi by 3, so x is 3 over 2. We know that y is r sine theta, so y is going to be 3 sine pi by 3, so y is 3 root 3 over 2, and the coordinates of point A are 3 over 2, 3 root 3 over 2. Remember, if you are asked to give them in coordinates, to give them in coordinates, don't just find x and y. So for the point B, x will be 5 cos 5 pi by 4, so x is minus 5 root 2 over 2, and y is 5 sine 5 pi by 4, so y is minus 5 root 2 over 2. Now it helps when you're doing these if you just do a sketch of the coordinate in the form that you're given it and just check that these coordinates that you find make sense. Okay, so originally we had 5 and 5 pi over 4. So if we start from here, if we go through 5 pi over 4, we're going to be around here. And so our point B would probably be around there, which makes sense. We've got 2 negative coordinates, so we know that this is the correct quadrant. Now we can change Cartesian to polar coordinates. We know, and again we're using this right angled triangle, the distance r is just going to be x squared plus y squared square rooted. And using trig identities, we've got tan theta is going to be opposite over adjacent, so it's y over x. Now if we think about this, the graph of y equals tan theta, we can see that if we're working between minus pi and pi, every theta has 2 solutions. So we need to take care. What helps is if you draw your diagram and think about what quadrant you are working in, and that's going to help you work out what theta is. So for example, if you had the coordinate 3, 2, which would be around here, we'd know that we were looking for a value of theta between 0 and pi over 2. If, however, we had the coordinate minus 3, minus 2, we'd know that we were working down here and that we'd be looking for a value of theta depending on the range, either between pi and 3 pi over 2 or between minus pi over 2 and minus pi. Okay, so now we've got a couple of coordinates and we're going to find their polar coordinates. So let's start with A, and we know that R is x squared plus y squared square rooted. So R is 12 squared plus 5 squared square rooted, which is 13. And tan theta is y over x. So tan theta is 5 over 12, which gives us theta is 0.395, or it could be 0.395 minus pi. Now if we draw a little sketch, we plot that 0.125 somewhere around there. We know that we're going to use this value of theta. So the point A has polar coordinates 13, 0.395 radians. Okay, let's have a look at the point B. So R is the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared, so that is 5. And tan theta is 4 over minus 3. Now here, if you know what quadrant you're working in, you can just use the positive values for x and y, and then make sure you look at what quadrant the answer is in, and make sure you adjust signs and adjust accordingly, whichever is easiest. So this means that theta is either minus 0.927 or minus 0.927 plus pi. So if we do a little sketch, think about where this point minus 3, 4 is. It's over here. So that tells us that the value of theta is in the second quadrant, so it needs to be this value here. So theta is in fact 2.214. So the point B coordinates are 5, 2.214. Okay, the next video will be 1.4 polar curves, finding areas.